Welcome, everyone, to Ag Tech with Andrew, one of our ongoing podcasts for Farms.com. I'm joined today with Mike Stefik, the senior CEO, I apologize, for HGS BioScience. Welcome, Mike. Tell us a little about yourself.
Andrew, great to be here. Thank you for the invitation. A little bit about myself. I've been a little over 30 years in the industry. The first, probably third or almost half of it was with in an R&D in crop protection with FMC Corporation, both domestically as well as in Latin America. And that was a great experience, not only, to kind of learn, to get into the business with a great company like FMC, but then also to really be a part of R&D, which has really come full circle now. After that, I jumped over into the channel where I'd worked with proprietary businesses within some of the big U.S. retailers. Did that for a little while, for several years, and then was part of the creation of another one and a roll up within another retail business. Where again, my role was to kind of build out the proprietary business. And so build out, whether it be private labels or proprietary formulations and things like that within a major retailer. So it's kind of always been on the product side of the business.
That's great. So a lot of background. So you went from there to with HGS BioScience. Tell us a little bit about what HGS BioScience is all about.
Yeah, HGS BioScience is a company owned by an agriculture food investment firm, egg and food investment firm named Paine Schwartz Partners, and they really, obviously they're focused purely on ag, which makes them a little bit unique in that type of a world. But their goal was to say, look, there's a lot of fragmentation here in this biostimulant world, especially. And so they said, look, is there a way we can begin with a platform business and begin to say, look, how can we build something a little more robust so we can provide value, across a bigger portfolio and a bigger chain, to become a bigger, maybe more strategic player to U.S. retail and ultimately to U.S. growers. And so HGS BioScience was the first one we bought about 3 years ago. It was a humic acid player that really plays across the spectrum. We've got the raw humic that we can use. It's got we make as good of a liquid as there is in the industry, so we have that liquid capability. And then we have a powder, which begins to move into where a lot of the patent protection was and a lot of the uniqueness became, and then where it moves into where there's an extracted granule. So you take that raw, you extract it into something so the use rate's very low, much easier to apply. You build a product that blends seamlessly with dry fertilizer, and that became kind of the better mousetrap. Allowed retailers to say, okay, I can use the liquid of my liquid fertilizers, but I never had a great opportunity or a great option to put humic acids out with dry fertilizer. So we saw that as the core benefit and something you could really build around, and we did. And a few months ago, we back integrated to some of the greatest humate sourcing in the world in New Mexico when we bought Menifee Earth Green. And in that process, we were able to back integrate and have that raw material source available for all of our plants. And so that kind of began this process of saying, okay, now we're fully integrated in the organic acids, the humic acids. And then, the idea being is, okay, now how can we horizontally expand and move into more of the other biostimulant categories and start to horizontally expand into those and provide an even broader technology base to our customers.
So that obviously takes us into the next part and the announcement that came out earlier this week that you have acquired NutriAg out of the Canadian market. Tell us first a little bit about NutriAg and what they have that kind of complements what you do, and then we'll go into some more details on there.
Yeah, NutriAg's been around for about 33 years, based in Toronto. They really had caught my eye here about 5 years ago. We began watching them in the market. They're part of what we were doing where I was at that time. And one thing that really caught our eyes was just extremely high quality product, especially as they're into bionutritionals and they were into some of these, the extracts, whether it be seaweed extract or protein hydrolysates and things like that. But what we found by and large and overwhelmingly was that their formulation technology and their ability to put things that aren't exactly easy to formulate into great formulations that you could also put onto the farm. And they did it in some really tough areas, like California was a real home for them, where you have to be, you have crazy tank mixes and very complex tank mixes, and their products hold up extremely well there. And so early on, we saw, this is a company that, really brings something very special to the market. Not only are they in bionutrition, but they're also in, like I said, amino acids, or in seaweed extracts, and they're in microbials. And so they started to expand out into some of these other key areas of the biostimulant world, but they did it in a way where they're really research driven, R&D driven, and then they also had just an amazing formulation capability. And on top of that, their manufacturing footprint, a lot like ours that we had. We, with the first two businesses, we had 8 plants across the U.S. and Canada, and they bring in a very good high quality plant in California and in Canada. So now you've got this manufacturing footprint here in North America that's as broad and as solid as you can get, and delivering, both sides of the equation now, some very high quality products. And so NutriAg really fit that bill of bringing something new, something interesting for us, but really at that quality level. I mean, for customers over and over say, it's just hard to match the quality of what they've created over the years. And so we were delighted to be able to merge our business with theirs, and had the opportunity to acquire them.
That's fantastic, and I think it sounds like it's going to be a really good fit. But kind of give me a little bit more detail on how the two are going to work together, and how that 1 + 1 can equal 3.
Yeah, that's the legendary formula, isn't it? What's nice about this is the portfolio is very complementary. So you start with that, and so now you say there's no overlap. So it's not like you're going to go shave off a bunch of products that have overlap. You're really truly bringing a bigger, broader platter into the party, if you will. So that's one. Number two is our strengths. We were strong, as legacy HGS in the row crop market. We were strong in the dry fertilizer markets and places like that. And so if you were to take the U.S., the Rocky Mountains and work east, that was our strength. We had a very big international business, or have a very big international business. And so that was where we relied. They, on the other hand, are very strong and very well known in Eastern Canada, and great market share, great strong brand recognition, great reputation. And they're also strong west of the Rockies, more into the specialty crops of the United States, and down across the coast into Florida, and up the up a little bit up the East Coast as well. And so with that, you begin to say, okay, you have really a complementary portfolio, but now you've also got a complementary customer base, and you got a complementary crop base. With all the things happening, with all the volatility in farming, you're going to ride one of those up or down, but nonetheless, if you can satisfy one or the other, and be able to have expertise on both specialty as well as row crop, that's a pretty unique place to be. So, they're bringing them together. The 1 + 1 = 3 really just kind of says, you're not stacking two companies that look exactly the same on top of each other. What we're doing is really putting on two complementary companies, and now we can go deliver a pretty nice, like I said before, a pretty nice portfolio to our channel partners.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, that we've seen in the past a lot of times when these two, a lot of products kind of disappear because there's too many competing products. So it sounds like this is a really good fit. When we go down the ag retail side, obviously, as you mentioned, big strength in the row crop for HGS, big in the more on the West Coast for NutriAg. How does that then impact the ag retail side of the business? How does that strengthen that, and how do you see that rolling out as we continue to grow?
Yeah, so for about the last 20 years, I was involved within the retail channel somehow or another, and now flipping to be on the supplier side of things, you put yourself back in those shoes, and you say, all right, how does each retailer want to work with you? And I think what gives us a little bit of you know, an opportunity is, we kind of check our ego at the door in a lot of ways, where we don't have to have our brand name on everything. Certain retailers say, listen, you guys are really good at this. How do we work with you and build something unique just for us? And we work behind the scenes, leverage our manufacturing assets, leverage our R&D, and be able to say, here you go. And we just get out of the way and let them go with it. Some come in and just say, hey, I really like this. I want it in just a straight private label. We'll go do that with them as well. And it fits our strategy. But then you've got a whole bunch of them that say, you know what, I'm not really into that, but I'll buy and resell. And can you give me something unique there? But we really need your brand. And so we've got a sales organization, out in the field, as does NutriAg now, that helps kind of go create and train and work with retailers at the local level, get to the grower, and really explain these things, because they really want some of that help, some of those retailers, and you find those partnerships. And so, the retail strategy gets to be kind of fun now, even more fun, because you can bring these people in and say, all right, here are all the watches. You kind of just say, here are all the technologies we happen to have in our business. How can we match up with what you're looking for? Where are your gaps, and how can we fill them? How can we make you a more robust player, and deliver a more robust product line to your farmers? And so if we can empower the retailer through that, that's how we do well. And like I said, we don't have to have our name on every time we sell it. So we're happy to see our name out there. We're also happy to see their name out there doing extremely well. We don't need to be in the front of that. And more importantly, with the R&D platforms that we've gotten, and the research centers that we have, both down in Sardis, Mississippi, Legacy, and then now in Toronto, Canada, we've got an opportunity to bring them in and just really roll up our sleeves and say, what can we build together? What can we do differentially? And so far the retail channel has appreciated that. They recognize, one is they want something different. They want to be able to be seen as an expert in that, with their growers. And if they're kind of selling the same thing everybody else is selling, it's harder to do. If we can enable them to have something a little bit different, I think it allows them to really flex their expertise, and we're right there to help support them in any way they want to. So, the broader portfolio, along with that broader footprint, with that core fundamental strategy that we have in approaching the channel, I think that's going to work well together.
That's fantastic. So I definitely see the strength in that, especially on the ag retail side. Let's switch hats here a little bit. And as a farmer, as a producer, where are you seeing the benefits for them? Because when it comes down to it, that's what we're doing this for.
Yeah, so a couple ways. One is, if we can empower the retailer and give him the confidence and give him the training and give him a portfolio, he's more confident, more likely to go to the grower and offer him these technologies that, the growers are reading about this every day, and they need someone to kind of sort it all out. And that retailer being a trusted advisor, really goes a long way to doing that. So I'd say number one is, is you're going to have that that retailer is going to be able to go out there with that portfolio. Secondly, what I think is neat is that you have a lot of biostimulant companies all operating kind of in a silo. And I can give you an example of what our vision was when we bought humic growth solutions, which became HGS BioScience. Is they've got a patented process that allows you to take a raw humate, which is a big bulky material, extract it, and then put it through a process that turns into a granule that only is applied at, say, 5 pounds per acre. So a very low use rate, 5 to 10 pounds per acre. But what's unique about our process is that we can now take and we can blend micronutrients with it. We can blend microbials with it. We can blend plant extracts with it. We can blend, that whole amino acids, kind of across that entire portfolio, of which we weren't basic in or had an understanding of. Well, now by putting these together, we can actually use that granule as a delivery system for a whole lot of biological or biostimulant type products. And so I think that's the benefit of everything coming together, is we can say, okay, where are we good? But at the end of the day, how do we make it as easy for the farmer to apply it? How do you make it so that his win rate is virtually certain, when he applies it? How do we set that as our goal, that he's going to win every single time, almost regardless of the conditions? And what are the things you can stack together on it? Well, when you have all that expertise across all of those categories, and now you have a delivery system, like the granule, or you have a delivery system in some of these liquids, with the combination of those technologies, now we can deliver something really robust for the farmer. And I think that's the part that I get the most excited about, is, getting everybody in the room, and, all the R&D guys, and saying, all right, now this is everything we've got. How can we put all this together and ultimately deliver some very convenient but very powerful technology to growers?
Yeah, that's fantastic. And actually, to go on that, I was going to just ask you, because as you said, you have a group of very brilliant people doing a lot of research now in multiple locations. Um, Anything you can kind of tease us with a little bit on maybe some of the research you're working on that might be we could look forward to down the road? Is there anything that you could do that?
Yeah, there were some unique biological based um, EDTA replacements and things like that that actually look like they're going to be, they're going to be pretty solid. And there's some things that we even saw this week as we got under the hood a little bit for the first time after we purchased NutriAg, and it was pretty impressive. And so you start looking at a little bit of the chelating materials that they have that, boy, they're very impressive. I kind of gave a little bit of a hint a minute ago of, putting some of these technologies together, and stacking them, on certain delivery systems like a granular and some of these liquids and, incorporating fulvic acids or incorporating humic acids. I mean, those are really a backbone chemistry for just about anything. And they get you 90 or 85% of the way toward the success you're looking for as a farmer. And then all these other biologicals, these other technologies just put you over the top. And so I kind of think that what we'll find is that you're going to see more of those combinations. NutriAg had an awful lot of work done, in some of the extracts and in some of the products like that, that the amino acids and also the microbials that are going to be kind of neat, that they were well down the road on. And, I think we're going to see some pretty neat stuff there. I think our problem will be more is prioritization. I think that we're going to
Sure.
get a whole line of these things and say, all right, how can we prioritize? Because we're still not a monster. We're a good sized company now,
Yeah.
but it's not. We don't have unlimited resources to be able to commercialize everything. So how do we intelligently prioritize and carry it to the market in a high quality way?
Yeah. So I guess going down that path of prioritization, where where do you see the biggest impact on what the potential is there on that prioritization? Is there specific crops where you see there's a bigger opportunity, or specific areas where you see bigger opportunity?
I think I think we're going to see a lot of that show up. You get into the specialty crops, in the West Coast. They've done a really good job over the years of embracing this and bringing it in and seeing the benefits. And so in those areas, we can deliver something maybe better or a little bit more unique than maybe what they've had exposure to in the past. But they've already been very accepting of it. I think as we move into the row crops, there's a desire to, especially on soil health. I mean, that's one thing that the humics are just a soil health, soil building, technology. And now you start putting some of these other things with it and on it. There just feels to be like there's a lot more momentum around soil health and soil development, and that's coming through through the middle of the country. You used to look at some of those I states just have big dark big beautiful deep soil, right? And even they'll admit, all right, I can still do a better job here, and I can recover and I can repair. We've applied an awful lot of salt to the acre over the years with fertilizers, and I think they're all looking for ways. They're hungry for solutions, and I think we can impact that very well.
Perfect. Well, is there anything else you want to share with our audience, Mike, before we say goodbye?
I just thanks for listening for one. Thanks for the time and kind of keep an eye out. But I think more than anything, the whole category is important. And I think there's much more. Whether it's our product or somebody else's, but I think that you know growers and farmers across the country, and certainly across the Americas, have got an appetite for this. They've got an interest for this, and the technology's really getting there quickly now. And I think they're going to be happy with it, especially with nutrient prices where they're at, fertilizer prices and where crop prices are. They're looking for these boosts, and I think they're going to be pleasantly surprised. So this is a good time to embrace them. And I guess that would be my message: is I don't care if it's ours or somebody else's. The entire biostimulant category, is really coming of age, and take a good hard look.
That's awesome. Well, listen, I really appreciate your time, Mike, and we'll keep on watching as things continue to grow. Uh, will you be rebranding, or will it be the keep the brands the same as we go down the path?
We're going to take a look at that. Maybe country by country, we're going to take a look at where the brands are the strongest and where we keep that. Again, this kind of goes to the no egos type of an approach. Let's get it right. And so we're going to take some time on that. You'll probably see the U.S. be an HGS BioScience business, but we got to look at some of the other international businesses where maybe NutriAg has got a good footprint. So you know what? I think that we've got a crop year ahead of us here that we're going to stay focused on and do just what we've been doing. We're gonna bring our teams together as best we can, but really have those answers for us as we get into September, October, and the next crop year. 11 months from now. So we just want to keep our focus and make sure we deliver on our commitments here this year for both sides.
Okay, well, perfect. Well, congratulations again, Mike. I think this is going to be a great fit for both companies, and look forward to keeping watching as you continue to grow, and hope to see you again. Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you for the time, Andrew.
Bye bye.